When starting the gym, many newbies always start with the wrong mindset. And the simple kind of analogy I like using, which is imagine some gardener planting some seeds, but every single hour he pulls them out to check if they've grown, which is basically what a lot of you newbies often do when you've only been going to the gym for like a month or so and you're upset that your gains aren't crazy huge. You have to put into perspective that training in the gym isn't like a little sprint, it's a marathon. So if you're someone that's constantly trying to get these quick gains, or you're YouTubing shortcuts to gains or things like that, you are likely someone that's not going to see the best success, because always remember, whether it's your muscles or plants, growth takes time. And you have to accept that before we even get into these things that every newbie should not do in the gym. And also, if you happen to know where this logo is from, the chances are that you need to kind of embody that sort of mindset of the character of that show. Anyways, without further ado, let's get into the tips. So first on the list of what newbies should never do is simply comparing yourself to other people, because comparing your like chapter 1 to someone's chapter 200 that's been in the gym lifting for ages is not going to do you any good. All it's going to do is make you feel miserable and constantly chasing someone else's physique, whereas you need to be focusing on building a better, stronger, fitter you. And that includes even if it's a friend that you may have started the gym with and they just happen to see faster progress than you. Unfortunately, you're all different people. All you can do is deal with the cards that you are dealt and try and manage them as best you can. So try and optimize your nutrition as best you can to suit you, and the same goes for your training. So you need to always remember, stay in your own lane. And I mean that in the most polite way possible, because there's too many people that often either look on social media or even the gym they go to and look at someone in there and just basically strive for that sort of body when they've been like 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, sometimes even 20 years in the gym longer than you. Now, the second one is definitely one that many of you are probably even doing right now if you're watching this video, and that is simply contemplating training virtually every single day. You don't need to do that. I know when you're a beginner, especially if you're younger, you may think that more days means more gains, but it really doesn't. Just because you're training 7 days a week doesn't mean that's optimal. If anything, it's the opposite of optimal, because you're more likely, especially as a beginner, to burn out, which means you either will feel burnout because you don't want to do anymore because you're just thoroughly sick of the gym after months of doing this, or you got so much muscle soreness you can't even train effectively because each time you step back in the gym, you haven't even fully recovered, so you're always working at limited capacity. So if you're a beginner, 3 to 4 days a week is more than enough. You can probably get away with 3 days a week. If you're someone that's probably more on the fatter side looking for fat loss, probably go for the 4. But if you're just a new, somewhat thinnish person aiming to build muscle, you can do 3 days and still see decent progress, especially if you haven't done any other resistance training or bodyweight training at home before. Just going to the gym is a brand new stimulus. It's going to help you grow, as long as you make sure your diet is fairly good too. High protein. Plus also, if you train too often and too intensely, especially early on in your journey, you are definitely more likely to get injured. By the way, if you found any of these tips helpful so far, please gently finger the like button, simply because it helps you boy out and it helps get the videos to more people. The next one now is simply do not ignore the essentials. I know when it comes to Instagram or YouTube, you may see some influencers to get attention post some really elaborate exercises that may look cool and funky, but probably aren't that optimal for actually building muscle. Because you have to think, all the OG bodybuilders and all the people that's lifted for decades and decades and decades, they have stuck to the fundamentals for a reason, because they work. So simple things like the dumbbell or barbell bench press, overhead press, whether it's with a dumbbell or a barbell, squats or a leg press, or deadlifts. These are solid compound moves that you should definitely try and incorporate. Some of them as a beginner you may need to be more careful of, especially things like deadlifts, but definitely in your routine make sure you have some decent solid compound routines as these staples, and do them early on in your routine. Don't do like 3 or 4 isolated workouts like biceps and triceps and then go do a bench press. Put those big solid staples at the beginning of your routine and then monitor as you get stronger on those lists over time. They may not be fancy, however, they will get you the most gains. So a simple rule I often say, if it looks too fancy, it's probably not needed. This may not always apply, but oftentimes if a routine looks too fancy, it's probably not the best at building muscle. It may be good for other things such as mobility or athleticism, but if your goal is muscle building or fat loss, these simple fundamentals will do most of the heavy lifting for you. And that tip leads us into the next one, which is do not be a deadlift dickhead. And if you don't know what I mean by that, I mean,
holy shit, fucking back, dude.
Do not be one of those people that are lifting the deadlift bar and their back is bent like a banana. It is just horrible to look at, and it's even worse so if you're the person that's doing it, because it's dangerous. And yes, technically, across all your exercises, you shouldn't be doing poor form, but I'm especially specifying deadlift simply because it's the most common one that many newbies like the idea of doing, because it's just a known movement, great full body move. However, they end up trying to progress in the weight too quickly, because if you're bending your back like any of these people, trust me, one, you're going to be in pain, and two, everyone in the gym, even though we typically do not stare and judge people, but when we see people doing terrible form like that, we know it's because they're ego lifting, and ego lifters are probably the few people in the gym where we all collectively kind of think they're idiots.
Go, Matt. Go, Matt. There you go, Matt.
So even though we may not judge you for being overweight or super skinny, if we see people ego lifting stupidly and dangerously, collectively, I will admit we all think in our heads, idiot. So try and be humble with the weights you lift. Don't ego lift. Lift what you know you can manage at first, especially as a beginner. Then as you get more confident in the gym and you build up your strength, then you can start challenging yourself a bit. But don't try doing deadlifts, doing 1 rep maxes and stuff like that early on. Don't even do 1 rep maxes across most of your exercises early on. Not unless you've got a friend that is there to spot you. But in reality, try aim for 10 to 12 reps on most of your exercises to keep things simple at the beginning and progress the weights over time. And for the final tip, I wanted to make it one of the more common ones, which is simply go into the gym with no form of any sort of plan. So you'll go in there just kind of winging it. So you and your friends may know you're going to the gym, but you don't really have a routine. You just kind of go in and whatever's free, you walk over and do it. I would say doing that is fine if you're casually just one-offing, meeting up with your friend, you want to do like a nice little fun workout, do what you want. Go train arms for an hour if you want. I've done that. Trust me, I've done that. It's been a fun time. Can't lift my arms in the morning, but I've definitely done stuff like that. However, in terms of like long term, you can't do that because you're just basically aimlessly walking around the gym. It's like being in the car with someone, right? And they don't technically know the right way to go to someone's house, but they're in the car driving around guessing, and eventually you're probably going to get there. But if you had a sat nav that actually told you the correct directions, you'd get there a lot faster. And that is what basically going to the gym and aimlessly kind of doing random things is doing. Yes, you are doing something, so it's better than nothing. However, if you want to actually see the fruits of your labor a lot faster, you have to have some sort of structure that you can actually follow, so you actually know if you're progressing. Because if every single time you go to the gym, you're doing random order of workouts in different parts of the gym, working different muscles, and you also do them in different orders, you're not even sure what weight to lift, because one day you may do, oh no, the chest press machine first, and you can lift a certain weight, but then another day you're doing the chest press last, and you can't lift the same weight because you're fatigued from all the exercises you've done prior. So the more random you make your workouts, the much harder it is to actually see and know what you're doing the right thing to progress, because you can't really track and progress anything. So that's something you definitely need to keep your eye on. However, if you're someone that has no clue how to build a routine or how to structure one, or you need a routine that's catered to whatever specific lifestyle you have, be sure to click the link down below and I can create you a plan, or you can come to me for coaching and we can help build you up over the coming months. But overall, the main thing is slow and steady wins the race. Do not compare yourself to others. And in general, make sure you have a plan. Those are the key areas you need to do to make sure you see results.